What is up, gamers? Staxwell's back at it again today. Another market watch, a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. We've had a couple of spoilers, a couple pickups based on that, and then we've also had a couple of buyouts. So, like I said, a lot to get into. So let's just jump straight into it. No Raid Shadow Legends ads. We're looking at Hard to Fend all today. It is at 540, and for the people just listening, that is $540. Kind of an insane price tag. I think one day we will look back and think this card actually is not expensive right now. And we're gonna wish we had bought it. I could easily see this card hitting 2 grand. It is the original chase card of Flesh and Blood, and it will always be iconic to me and to everyone else. I think it's just too beautiful, too good of a card. So it does seem expensive right now, but don't feel bad if you're buying it for this price tag. Like I said, in years' time, it will, I think, you know, go a lot higher than this. One actually sold for 600, so this is a valid price tag at this point. There's a few up here for 540, 550, and it does jump back up to 600 very quickly. So if you don't have one, it's probably time to pick it up. Unfortunately, it feels bad that you waited this long. But we've talked about this card plenty of times on the channel. We've mentioned, probably time to pick this card up plenty of times on the channel. It being so expensive has also sparked a lot of controversy and outrage about, oh, this game's too expensive, LSS needs to address reprints, things like that. I don't necessarily think that this is a bad thing for the game. I could do a separate video kind of doing my take on that. And I do have a unique take. I think not a lot of people are saying what I'm thinking. So I probably will do like a short or something on that, kind of just talking about the state of the game, the price and everything. But yeah, there's Heart of Fendal. I think Sandscour Greatbow is on the other end of the spectrum in that it is way too cheap right now. I think 160 is just not quite expensive enough. I think it should probably be closer to 300. And this is, of course, for the Marvel version. A new card got spoiled called Barbed Castaway, and this is going to be like the default token. This is like what you're going to be playing with in Sealed most of the time. And we kind of know what it does. It gives aim counters. It doesn't draw. It's a kind of like a bad death dealer. Instead of drawing, you put an aim counter. So what's the value of the aim counter? If they make the value of an aim counter more than a card, this will be better than death dealer, but probably won't happen. So this is probably just a worse death dealer because death dealer gets you a card. But Sandscour Greatbow gets you a card and an aim counter. So I'm sure that Sandscour Greatbow will be the premier bow moving forward. I think yeah, and that's the other thing is that this card's kind of for Castaway. You can see it's like in an ocean and stuff. Like I'm sure this is going to be a Castaway card. Not Castaway, Riptide. Sorry, this is going to be a Riptide card. So this implies that Riptide is also going to be using aim counters. That's not just an Azalea thing, because all the cards currently printed are like implied that you should be using them in Azalea. So Riptide and Azalea using aim counters. Sandscour Greatbow is just obviously the premier aim counter bow. Again, I think it's too cheap. I think it should probably be closer to the 250, 300-ish dollar mark. I personally picked one up, and I think you guys should too, especially if you have any interest in playing Ranger. I'm going to highlight Remorseless here, but this is just kind of talking about all the Ranger cards or all the Ranger Majestics. Remorseless is $20. Rainrazor's like 15. Three of a Kind's like 15, 20, somewhere in there. Like all of these Ranger Majestics are just kind of going crazy. And we've seen this before with Dash and things like that. I've done a market watch talking about how Teklo Pounder was $20. And this always comes from speculation, right? People thought Dash would be the best deck for ProQuest season. And then it wasn't, right? Oldham and Icelander and Fi were still the best decks despite Pulse Wave Harpoon being printed. This is kind of the same thing. People think that Ranger's going to be the best deck, so they want to pick up all the Ranger Majestics. I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. We have no reason to think that. No Ranger cards have been spoiled that have been broken. LSS is really good at balancing things. For the most part, they've messed up a couple times here and there. But even like in Starvo meta, it was like a tier 0 Starvo deck. There was still other viable heroes, and the Starvo Majestics weren't $20 each. So I don't think that these price tags are warranted. If you haven't picked them up yet, I would kind of wait for the set to release, wait for people to test it, realize, oh, it's just a normal power level deck, and kind of step back and sell some. I don't think these Majestics are quite worth the price tag just yet. Crown of Providence has taken a little bit of a dip. It's at 194 right now. We've done plenty of market watches mentioning this card because it has such a volatile price as of the last couple months. Used to be at like 250 for the rainbow foil, so a pretty substantial drop. I think this is because if we look into the future, the next set, that's like what the entire market is revolving around right now. There's going to be two Rangers in the next set. Ranger uses New Horizon or Scoba and Cross Rep. There's going to be two new Ninjas. They use Mask of Momentum or Mask of the Pouncing Links. And then there's going to be two new Assassins, which presumably will use Mask of Perdition. It's unlikely that they'll use Mask of Providence. So that's kind of why this card is dropping. There's no need for a generic headpiece when we think about the future. That's not to say there never will be, and if you've been thinking about picking up a Crown of Providence, now might be the time since it's kind of on sale at the moment. Tales of Adventure has been completely bought out. There is one up here for $650. Obviously, you should not pay that. They've only sold for 110, 120-ish. So, yeah, just kind of want to bring it to your guys' attention that this is a collector's card. We've mentioned this before, and it has been bought out since we mentioned it. Azalea Rainbow Foil is at 130. I personally don't think that this is a very good pickup because the winner of the skirmish seasons or all of the skirmishes will get a cold foil Azalea. And looking at skirmish prizes of the past on the weekend that they're won, they're typically like around the $100 to $200 price point. They're never more than $200. So, you know, probably for a similar price, you could just pick up a cold foil, which maybe it's like not as rare because this is so old, but it will definitely look a lot cooler. And I think, you know, 10 years down the line, it'll hold a lot more value than the rainbow will. The young Azalea rainbow foil has been dropping for some reason. Kind of doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Used to be like $70, now it's like $65. I just kind of bring this up because Azalea could be a good hero in skirmish or in blitz, and skirmish season's coming up, and skirmish season will be blitz. So some of these young heroes like Azalea, like Katsu, like Benji, in their higher rarities might be worth a pickup. So this is kind of just, I bring this up just to highlight all of them. But yeah, just kind of take a look at those cards and you can find some deals for sure. Invoke Suraya, I think that's how you pronounce it, is a legendary that's $20. That seems criminally cheap to me, because like we know that they're going to print a new Light Illusionist. They've literally confirmed it, and I think like James White said something to the effect of like it will be like a better Prism, something to that effect. I don't know the exact quote, but I remember hearing that and I was like, wow, like Prism was so good. How could you be a better Prism? But ideally, they didn't print this card for no reason. They imagine the new Illusionist is probably going to play this because, you know, they have like the next 4 sets already planned or whatever. So I'm sure they squeezed this in this set because they didn't have another place to put it, and they wanted to print it because it's probably going to be like integral to the new Illusionist plan. So yeah, $20 for a rainbow seems like really, really cheap. For a legendary seems really, really cheap, especially one as good as this. Because in a vacuum, like pound for pound, this card is like really good. So yeah, too cheap. Speaking of too cheap, I think the Emperor is also too cheap. $13 for a rainbow foil. We've talked about this on the channel before. As they print more cards, they're just going to slip up at some point. This card has too many typings: Royal, Draconic, Wizard, Warrior. It's just too much. It's just too much. This card's going to be broken for sure one day. For sure. As the card pool expands, this card will absolutely be broken one day, I promise you. It's going to take some time, but it will be broken. Cold foil is only $40. I wouldn't worry, unless you're a whale, I wouldn't worry about picking up the Marvel. I think the cold foil is a fantastic steal for $40. Even the Rainbow is a good pickup. I think every Flesh and Blood player playing right now should absolutely have an Emperor. If you don't, it's as good a time as any to pick it up. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, rate, subscribe, and help the algorithm help me out a little bit. Thank you, gamers. Have a good day.